Have you ever wondered why some people seem to break through every limitation, while others remain trapped in invisible cages, staring at doors that were never locked? What if the reason your life hasn't transformed isn't because of lack of effort, but because of one habit you've never been taught to see? And what if I told you that in the next 90 days, everything could change? Not through chance, but through the deliberate ignition of something already buried within you. The real question is, are you willing to uncover it? They told you. That transformation takes years. A slow, linear grind of discipline and luck. But what if that was a myth designed to keep you docile? What if success, power, clarity were not distant mountains to climb, but chambers within your own mind waiting to be unlocked with a single key? The habit I'm about to reveal isn't just about action. It's about reprogramming the very frequency of your thoughts, bending the laws of attraction until they answer to you. But to understand it, you must first unlearn what they've told you about time, struggle, and destiny. This is not a routine. It's not a motivational cliché wrapped in dopamine and deadlines. This is an awakening, a rewiring of your internal compass that begins in silence, festers in discomfort, and erupts as clarity when you least expect it. Every day you delay it, your soul pays a price, a subtle corrosion of potential, purpose, and power. But once you hear what I'm about to share, you can never go back to who you were before. There's a pattern hidden beneath your daily chaos, a rhythm pulsing beneath the noise, whispering truths your conscious mind was trained to ignore. Those who rise above, the truly chosen, don't stumble into success. They awaken into it. And that awakening begins with a ritual so deceptively simple, so quietly potent, that most dismiss it before it ever has the chance to change their lives. But you didn't click on this video by accident, did you? Before this video ends, one truth will be undeniable. The life you crave isn't beyond your reach. It's buried beneath your habits, camouflaged by comfort, waiting for you to remember what you were born to become. But be warned, once this door opens, it will not close. You will either walk through it or spend the rest of your life wondering what was on the other side. You wake up each day with the same breath in your lungs, yet something feels off. There's a silence beneath your thoughts, not peace but absence. And that absence speaks, not in words but in weight. A feeling that you were meant for more, but somehow ended up here, looping, going through motions that were never yours to begin with. Can you feel it? This is not about motivation. This is about memory, the kind buried in your bones. A blueprint etched into your spirit before you even had a name. And that blueprint is not passive. It's screaming now, isn't it? Every missed opportunity, every forced smile, every night you lie awake staring into a ceiling that doesn't answer back. You've been told you're just tired, that it's normal, that stress is part of the game. But what if it isn't? What if the exhaustion you feel is your soul revolting against a life you never chose? What if that ache in your chest is the echo of a destiny delayed? 90 days. That's what I'm offering you. Not a challenge, not a trick, a reckoning. An invitation to unlearn everything that has kept you small, quiet, and obedient. To take a blade to the lies you've inherited and carve your own meaning. And it starts not with action, but with one habit. One choice. So small it will seem insignificant. So consistent it will shatter every false belief you've built around yourself like armor. You don't need more time. You need more truth. And truth only answers to those brave enough to confront it. Are you brave enough? Because this habit isn't just about doing, it's about becoming. Becoming the version of yourself that you've seen in glimpses, in dreams, in pain, in fleeting moments when the mask slips and something real looks back in the mirror. You were never meant to blend in. You were designed to rise. And yet how many times have you dimmed your light because someone told you it was too bright? How many times have you waited for permission that was never coming? Look at your hands. They're still here, still capable, still holding the future hostage. The only question is, how long will you keep waiting for the world to change when the real change is begging to erupt inside you? The next 90 days will demand everything. and give you back even more, but only if you're willing to begin. There's a reason your mind resists this. It's not laziness, it's fear. Fear disguised as logic, doubt dressed as caution. The mind was trained to protect the past, even when the past is poison. And so, the very habit that could liberate you is the one your thoughts will try to strangle in its crib. Have you ever watched your own hands sabotage your future? You've been conditioned to seek comfort, to idolize ease. But comfort is a coffin lined with velvet, beautiful, soft, and deadly. The moment you choose growth, you declare war against your lesser self. The one that whispers later, the one that says, you're fine, but you're not fine, you're functioning. There's a difference, and deep down, you know it. You know that the conversations you avoid, the decisions you postpone, the truth you swallow, they don't disappear. They ferment. They rot inside you, releasing toxins that blur your clarity, your will, your sense of self. This habit, the one I'm about to give you, is not a fix. It's a fire starter. It will burn away the parts of you that were never real. You must be willing to be unmade, because true transformation is not addition, it's subtraction. Stripping away what is not yours, peeling off the expectations, the programming, the false identities you wore like borrowed clothes. And beneath all that, there's something ancient, unshakable. But you won't survive in the environment you've built to please others. You must demolish, you must disturb. You must become so honest with yourself that it hurts, and then let that hurt become your compass. This habit is not glamorous, it doesn't glitter, but it cuts. It cuts through noise, through delay, through weakness. It takes you to the place where only you and your desire remain, naked, trembling, and real. And once you reach that place, the world will feel different, sharper, quieter. Every moment will hum with urgency, because now you'll know time was never the issue. It was alignment, energy, will, focus. And in this new reality, there are no excuses, only choices. Only now. Have you ever stood in front of a mirror and not recognized the reflection? Not because it looked different, but because it looked empty. That emptiness isn't lack. It's potential, suppressed. It's the residue of dreams deferred, the dust of unspoken truths that collected behind your smile. And it lingers, doesn't it? A ghost of who you might have been. People fear death, but they rarely notice the smaller deaths they endure daily. The death of passion, the death of authenticity, the quiet suffocation of a soul obeying systems it never agreed to. You wake up, go to work, play the role, but somewhere inside you're screaming for something real. This habit, this sacred act, is not just about doing something new. It's about undoing something old. It's about reclaiming the power you gave away. To people, to routines, to voices that never understood your fire. And once you reclaim it, nothing feels the same. You'll notice things others don't. You'll hear silence where others hear noise. You'll feel friction when your soul brushes against anything that doesn't align. You'll become sensitive, not weak, but awakened. And with that awareness comes a burden. Now you can't go back. The world will offer you comfort, applause, distraction, routine. But your soul? It will hunger for the edge, for the place where the known ends and the real work begins. Because that's where evolution lives, not in ease, but in pressure. And pressure reveals design. Do you know your design? Not the one society gave you. Not the one you show online, but the one you sense in stillness, when the world fades and your pulse speaks in ancient rhythms. That design was never random. It was encoded, buried, waiting. And this habit is the shovel. It doesn't promise joy every day. It promises truth. And the truth, while uncomfortable, is holy. Once it touches you, it tears through lies like wildfire. It reveals the cage. And then it offers the key, forged not from inspiration, but from discipline. Because the freedom you seek isn't free. It costs presence, it costs decision, it costs you. The version of you that resists, delays, explains. The old you must die, and in its place something unstoppable will rise. You weren't born to be efficient. You were born to be electric, but somewhere between childhood and now they trained that spark out of you. They called your instincts impulsive, your intensity too much, your visions unrealistic. So you dimmed, you adapted, you survived. But surviving is not living. There is a war within you, a silent one, between who you were taught to be and who you are. Every decision you delay, every truth you water down, every time you say yes. When your soul screams Noah, you surrender. Not to the world, but to the weaker version of yourself. And yet that version is seductive. It's convenient. It says, just wait a little longer. It wraps your fear in soft logic. Be realistic. Be patient. But patience can rot into paralysis. And logic, when used as armor, becomes a prison. This habit is not about speed. It's about alignment. It's about disrupting the loop, that neurochemical hypnosis you've been living under. You don't need to do more. You need to remember who the hell you are when no one's watching. And remembering hurts. It brings grief, not just for what you've lost, but for what you've ignored. The callings silenced, the creativity buried, the version of you that used to dream out loud but was taught to whisper. That ache you feel? It's not failure. It's truth asking to be seen. You'll want to quit. That's part of the process. Growth is violent. Not because you're weak, but because false identities cling hardest right before they die. The closer you get to yourself, the louder the voices of resistance will scream. That's how you know you're near the core. So when that moment comes, when your limbs are heavy, your thoughts are loud, and your progress feels invisible, keep going. That's not a sign you're failing. That's a sign you're shifting, dismantling, reconstructing the architecture of your being. This habit will become your anchor, your mirror, your battleground. It will show you the parts of yourself you tried to outrun and ask you to love them into submission, not by force, but by presence. Because real power isn't loud, it's rooted, and roots only grow when you stay. Change doesn't begin with a plan. It begins with a decision, and not the kind you declare out loud, but the kind that whispers in your bones. No more. No more pretending. No more postponing. No more walking through life with your soul on mute. You don't need permission to begin. You need a break in the pattern. One act, repeated with sacred consistency, can fracture decades of mental conditioning. That act is this habit. It's not designed to impress. It's designed to interrupt, because everything about the world you've been trained to survive in wants you asleep, numb, distracted, scrolling through lives you don't live, comparing dreams you don't even want. And this habit is a rebellion, a refusal to be hypnotized by noise. It doesn't ask you to be extraordinary. It asks you to be awake. And when you're awake, you notice the way you lie to yourself. You notice how often you shrink before you've even been tested. You notice that the chains you wear were handcrafted from your own excuses. But don't blame yourself. Not now. That's another trap. You weren't weak. You were loyal. Loyal to survival. Loyal to comfort. Loyal to an identity that kept you safe until it didn't. Growth begins the moment safety becomes the enemy. And in that moment you'll feel alone. Because the path of transformation is not crowded. It's carved. Carved by those willing to be misunderstood. To walk forward without applause. To follow a voice only they can hear. Can you hear it? It's faint now, but it's there. Beneath your habits, beneath your doubts. A rhythm, a calling, a drumbeat only your soul recognizes. That's what this habit tunes you into. The frequency of your original self, the one that remembers. Because transformation doesn't always roar. Sometimes it arrives like a whisper you can't unhear. A presence behind your eyes that begins to take up space. A quiet knowing that refuses to be silenced again. This habit is your pact with that knowing. A ceremony you perform daily. Not for the world to see, but for your soul to feel. And with each repetition, a part of you comes back. Not imagined, not created, remembered. And maybe that's the most powerful revolution of all. To remember who you were before the world told you who to be. Some days this habit will feel like salvation, other days like surrender. There will be mornings when it flows through you like fire, and nights when it feels like dragging your own shadow up a mountain. But the power lies not in how it feels. It lies in the fact that you show up anyway. Discipline is devotion, not to a task but to yourself. And most people have never truly met themselves in devotion. They've met pressure, obligation, performance. But devotion is different. It is sacred repetition. It is saying, I will not abandon myself, not again. The world has taught you to perform, to hustle, to prove. But this habit asks for something else, presence. And presence demands vulnerability. It demands that you stay when your instincts scream to run, that you breathe when every nerve begs for distraction, and when you do, something unlocks. You begin to see how often you've run from yourself, how often you've drowned your awareness in stimulation. But now, in this space you've carved with ritual and resolve, there is no noise, just you. And what you find, there will not always be beautiful, but it will be true. You'll meet your resistance in its rawest form, the voice that says, what's the point? This won't work. You're not enough. But those voices are echoes, not facts. They are remnants of moments you survived, ghosts of doubt wearing your voice. This habit doesn't silence them. It exposes them. And once seen, they lose their grip. Not because they vanish, but because you no longer believe them. You've practiced showing up too many times. You've made integrity your default, not your exception. That's when you shift. You begin to make decisions from alignment, not fear. You start choosing what builds your future, not what soothes your present. You stop begging for signs and start creating them, in motion, in silence, in repetition. And this is where the world starts to notice. Not because you shout, but because you shine. Quietly, unapologetically, you become undeniable. Not because of what you do, but because of who you consistently are. And the irony? All of this begins with something so small, so quiet, that most people will miss it. But you won't. Not anymore. By now, you've felt it. That internal shift. Subtle but seismic. The world hasn't changed, but you have. You walk through the same doors, but you carry a different frequency. You speak the same words, but they come from a place deeper than your throat, from somewhere sacred. And yet, this is the most dangerous part of the journey, not because of what lies ahead, but because of what calls you back. Comfort will return, sweeter than before. Doubt will disguise itself as logic, wearing the mask of reason. Old habits will whisper, was it really so bad back then? They want you to forget, not maliciously, habitually, because the brain clings to the familiar, even when the familiar is what breaks you. Your growth threatens everything that once defined you, and threatened things tend to fight back. This is where most people turn around, right on the edge of the breakthrough, right when the old world begins to burn and the new one is still just smoke. They call it balance, realism, being grounded. But sometimes those words are just elegant names for fear. So you must remember, this habit is not just a tool, it's a compass. It doesn't give you the map, it makes the map step by step in the dark with your feet. You don't need to see the whole path, you just need to keep walking, and walk you will, through resistance, through fatigue, through days when nothing makes sense and nights when everything suddenly does. There will be no fanfare, no applause, only the sound of your own breath and the quiet click of integrity repeating itself. And yet, that's the miracle. Because one day, without warning, you'll wake up and realize the noise is gone. The craving for validation, the panic of time, the ache of not enough gone, and in its place, peace. Not because the world changed, but because you did. From the inside out. And the only thing you did differently? You kept the promise, you honored the habit, you stayed. There is a moment in every transformation when silence becomes symphonic, where stillness doesn't feel like absence, It feels like presence. And in that space, you finally meet the version of yourself that's been waiting behind the noise, the roles, the fear. You'll realize something quietly devastating. Most of your suffering came not from the world, but from your agreement with it. You agreed to be less, to wait, to shrink, to pretend. And the most violent thing you can do now is revoke that agreement, without apology. But breaking free doesn't always look heroic. Sometimes it looks like crying alone in your car, like saying no and shaking after, like showing up to the habit when every cell in your body screams for escape. But that's the truth of power. It's born in the shadows, not the spotlight. You are not here to live someone else's idea of enough. You are not here to tick boxes or chase applause. You are here to remember, to excavate the truth beneath the programming, to reclaim the fire that the world tried to name too much. And that fire? It was never gone, just buried, covered, in layers of survival, silence, and shame. But every time you show up, every time you perform this habit, you dig, you carve, you ignite. And with each spark, the false self cracks a little more. Soon you won't recognize the one who hesitated, the one who needed to be convinced. You'll remember them with compassion, but you won't trade places again. Because now you've tasted something rare, something real. And once realness touches you, artifice becomes intolerable. Even your questions change. You no longer ask, "What if I fail?" You ask, "What if I never try?" You no longer ask, "How long will it take?" You ask, "How deeply can I go?" You begin to measure your life not by results, but by resonance, by the vibration of truth in your chest when you move. From alignment. And yes, the world will still pull. It will still test, but you'll be different now. Not because you've become unshakable, but because you've chosen to shake consciously, to tremble forward, to walk into the unknown, not to escape the past, but to embody the future. And the future doesn't arrive. It is built, one repetition at a time, one promise at a time, one moment of radical presence at a time. That's what this habit offers. Not a miracle, but a mirror. And now that you've seen yourself, will you turn away? You've crossed a threshold now, not one marked by ceremony or sound, but by presence. You've stepped into a version of yourself that no longer begs to be seen, because you've become the witness. The external is no longer your mirror. The mirror is within, and what you see is truth in motion. Not perfection, not clarity, but something infinitely more sacred. Authentic movement. Forward, inward, deeper. This is where most people stop, mistaking discomfort for misalignment. But not you, not anymore. Because now you know, discomfort is the compass. The moment you stopped outsourcing your power, the world lost its grip. No title, no praise, no approval holds the same weight as the quiet satisfaction of a promise, kept to yourself. And that is freedom, the kind they can't sell you, the kind they hope you never find. But you found it, in repetition, in resistance, in silence. This habit has become more than ritual. It has become remembrance. And with every act, you recalibrate your life to that inner rhythm. You don't need to yell to be heard anymore. Your energy walks into rooms before your voice does. Because presence, once embodied, becomes undeniable. People will ask what changed. They'll expect a technique, a strategy, a hack. But how do you explain to someone that you simply came back to yourself, that you built a temple out of your attention and chose to pray there daily, without proof, without reward, without witnesses? There is no final form, no ultimate arrival, only deeper embodiment. You are not a project, you are a process. And the habit is the doorway, the one you walk through again and again until the act itself becomes identity. And now that it has, your vision shifts. You don't see obstacles, you see tests. You don't see waiting, you see preparation. You don't fear failure, you respect it, learn from it, absorb it. Because now you trust something deeper than control. You trust your momentum. The old world is still there, but you don't belong to it. You remember it, you honor it, but you don't return. Because now even stillness feels like progress. Even silence hums with forward motion. And in that motion, you become the message, not spoken, not written, lived. You didn't come here to be convinced. You came because something inside you was already stirring. This was a mirror, not to show you who you are, but to reflect who you were before the forgetting. And now, as the screen fades, that memory is waking. Think back. The words weren't new. The truths weren't foreign. They were familiar, not like facts, but like home. This habit, this sacred repetition, was never meant to add something to your life. It was meant to remove the fog, to return you to clarity, to stillness, to force. And now you stand at the edge of that stillness, pulsing with potential. Not a potential that waits for permission, but one that dares to choose itself. Can you feel it? That rising, that hum beneath your ribs, that's not motivation, that's momentum. You are not who you were when this began. Even if nothing changed around you, something cracked within you. And from that fracture, something golden is bleeding through. Call it truth. Call it soul. Call it the beginning. There are no fireworks here, no loud applause, only the soft sound of alignment, the gravity of having touched something real, and knowing you can never return to pretending. Because once you feel your power, you cannot unfeel it. You cannot unknow what has awakened. So let this be your ritual. Not a task, a vow, a silent pact between you and the part of you that remembers. Return to this practice not for change, but for communion. Let each day become a conversation between who you were and who you're becoming. And may that dialogue never end. And if something within you was stirred, if you felt the truth ripple through your skin and settle behind your eyes, then don't walk away in silence. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Not as a reaction, but as a declaration. Join this circle of those who remember, who choose to live wide awake, who know that a single habit done with reverence can echo across a lifetime.